So I was like, well, I never see any mugs with like affirmations on them. So how cool would it be to wake up as a mom in the morning and see a cute mug with a great saying on it to remind you like how great you are, or that you are strong, or that you're enough.
Hey everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Entering Motherhood, a podcast dedicated specifically to new moms going through this amazing journey in life. I'm your host, Sarah Bilger, a postpartum nutritional coach / mechanical engineer. And as always, I'm so excited to be here with you and share all of the information I've been lucky enough to obtain since becoming a mom. In this episode, we talk with Mindy Keegan about her postpartum experience, finding holistic ways towards personal development, and starting her online shop, Made for Mama. Hey mamas, I just wanted to start this episode off a little differently and build up more about what you can expect from this episode specifically. You are going to want to listen to this whole episode because it is truly packed with so much inspiration and hope. If you are a mama going through a hard time or searching for your purpose or direction on where to go next in this stage of life, Mindy guides us down her path of where she started and where she is now, while also adding in some honest truths about thoughts on her business and the constant reminder of letting us know we are enough. This podcast is here to show you that you are so much more than just one thing, and we can ask for more, push for more, and go beyond what we thought was possible. And mamas like Mindy are a shining example of that. These episodes I've been recording lately have been such a driving force to continue what we're doing here. And there's a lot going into this, and what's to come next. I want this to be a place where you turn to every week to feel a little less alone, and a place that motivates you to do more. So pop in those headphones, turn up the volume, and dive on in. Play these episodes on a car ride while you fold laundry or do dishes, or simply just press play when you're doing something creative, like a hobby, or finding a way to move your body, like going on a walk. Allow this to be your time to disconnect from what's going on around you and fully connect into that moment of personal development so you can become a more present mom who knows that she's meant for more. Hello and welcome to Entering Motherhood. I am so happy and excited to have you here today. So how about you go ahead and introduce yourself for our listeners?
Sure. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Mindy. I am the founder of Made for Mama Shop. I am also a mom to two little boys, although they're like growing up so fast. So yeah, I'm just excited to be here.
How old are your boys?
They are 8 and 5.
So going back 8 years ago then, what was it like when you first entered motherhood, and what was that journey like?
Okay, so when I first entered motherhood, it took us a while to get pregnant the first time. It took us about like a year and a half. It was actually a blessing though, because we were building our home at the same time. So of course I was very like impatient, wondering if something was wrong. And then we ended up getting pregnant. Our house was being built and we moved into the home 11 days before my first son was born. So I was a new homeowner and a new mom, knew nothing about either one of them. It was pretty chaotic. I'm an Enneagram 3, if you're familiar with that at all. So
I'm a
I
1.
like, okay. So my husband is probably a 1, though he's never taken the test. I wanted things to be in order and I like to feel in control and just the best and all this stuff. So at the beginning of motherhood, I really let that like control me, like what I was doing. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. I didn't want to look like I couldn't handle all of it, or, that I didn't really know what I was doing as a new mom. I was also working in the corporate world at that time. So I had 6 weeks off and then I had to go back to work. And it was really, really hard. So that is how my motherhood journey started.
So when you went back to work at 6 weeks, was your son in daycare?
My in-laws, it was really my father-in-law actually. He took care of him during the day for the first year, I would say. And then we put him in daycare 3 days a week. And then my in-laws watched him like Tuesday and Thursday or whatever the days were.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a split thing.
Yeah, I was very much the same in the sense of I was so used to kind of, controlling everything, like having everything like together in order and used to being able to do that. And then, becoming a mom, it's just things are so unpredictable. You can't control this. You can't know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, you could be seconds almost out the door and all of a sudden there's a blowout up
Oh
your
yeah.
child's back and so
Oh
I
my
think it
God.
was
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff that really threw me for the loop. Like here I went back 9 weeks postpartum and I was having to, wake up my daughter and like get her ready for daycare and then just like drop her and leave. Like it was really hard kind of having to stick to that schedule when children don't want to live by that routine and like things are going on and they were accommodating, but I always felt like it was kind of one of those, oh, here's this mom like 5 minutes late again, 10 minutes late again, like you're just trying to get there on time and do all the things right and there's just unforeseeable situations that are going on. So you said that was for a year?
Well, then, yeah, no, he stayed in daycare. Just that first year, only my in-laws had him.
Okay.
And then after the next year, we did daycare and they watched him.
Yeah.
So, and that went through until he was 4. And
Okay.
that was after I had my second one.
So what else was kind of going on with your first and that you were finding kind of struggles with or even just, processing motherhood and navigating it all?
Yeah. So, one of the things was I was very worried about what other people thought, like of me as a mom. So that was kind of where like a big struggle was for me. Like I wanted it to look like I had it all together and I knew what I was doing and like, don't give me this advice. Like I don't need it or I didn't ask for it. And so that was really bothersome to me. And that is something that I carried with me like since I was I don't know, a teenager. I was always worried about what people thought about me or like what I was doing. So that was just part of me. The other thing was I struggled with postpartum depression, but I didn't actually know it until like I was more than 6 weeks. So this is what kind of happened. I was finding myself like crying a lot and just thinking of these like awful things that might happen. And I don't even know where they came up from. I was also reading a lot of like the blogs and things like that and seeing these stories about like these awful things that had happened to these kids and it would just like stick with me and get like stuck in my head. I just was really really unhappy and I didn't know if it was like the baby blues that they talk about or if it was like a type of depression or whatever. So I finally called my doctor and it was past that 6 weeks. So they told me that, you're past your 6 weeks. You already had your checkup. So there's nothing that we can do. So you're going to have to contact, like, I don't know, your PCP to find a referral or whatever, someone to talk to. So I was like, well, I'm not doing that. Like, this took me so much to even call you and even like try to talk about this when I don't even know what's actually happening with me right now. I'm not doing that again. So I didn't. I instead researched like holistic ways of coping with postpartum depression and moodiness and irritability because that's like kind of what I was feeling and just also a lot of sadness. even though there was nothing to be sad about, there was nothing, and I never, thought about hurting my child or anything like that. I wanted only the best for him. But again, like I would just be like rocking him to sleep at night. And I would just like think of these things that might happen or like that could happen to him. And it would just like break me. So I just started really working on myself at that point. And that's when I kind of researched and found out different like vitamins I should be taking or different exercises or stress relievers, mental health, how that was like a huge thing that nobody talked about at that point. That was like 8 years ago where it wasn't really a thing that was talked about. Also, even just like having postpartum depression or going through that, like I feel like people didn't really talk about that as much at the time. So I didn't talk to anyone about it, like not even my husband. So I was just kind of dealing with everything by myself. And that's kind of how that all played out.
Yeah, that literally gave me chills when you said that you called your OB. And, that takes, like you said, so much work, so much courage to finally get to the point like, hey, I need help. I'm going to call somebody. And this is the person I think can help me and who I need to call. So you make that step, and then it's like you get turned down. And it's like, oh, sorry, we can't help you. So here you are, literally like, trying to dig yourself out of this hole, and they're like, nope, let me push you right back down. And I can't believe, like, even if like they're not the ones that can maybe technically refer you, or they're not, it's not in their wheelhouse or anything, that person that was on the phone should have been like, hey, here's a mom who's struggling, she needs help, and be like, hey, we can't help you because you're past your 6 weeks, but let me call somebody, or let me like figure out how we can help you. Because
Yeah.
like that was just so much work to get to that point. And
Mhm.
you're so scared, you're so nervous, you're so afraid to just, reach out to somebody and say that you're having these thoughts, because probably you never had them before in your life. And like you said, it's just something that was not really talked about. I think it's starting to be more talked about, but I also think I'm noticing it being talked about even before. Like, my daughter's 2.5, and, before she was born, I never even tapped into this realm of motherhood. I didn't know what, I didn't even know what a placenta was. We'll say that.
Mhm.
And this was
Mm-mm.
just like 2 years ago. So it's really insane, like the lack of awareness that we are giving to, moms to be, or even just new moms in general, about what can be done and who's around to help them. And even, sometimes it is too, somebody reaches out, like maybe you tell a friend, or like you said, you were even afraid to tell your husband, and they're clueless on what to do because, they're not a professional in any of this, and they don't know how to help, and they're just as frozen as you are sometimes when they're hearing these stories. So, we need to not only be telling moms where they can go and how they can get help, but educating people, signs to look for, or what to say if somebody is coming to you and saying this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But
It's crazy.
it is. What was kind of, like after that point, like to where you are now, like so many years have gone, and what was, your journey like looking on all those self-help outlets and
Yeah.
everything?
So I feels like forever ago now, but I really dove into like the self-help. And I started first just taking different like multivitamins, different vitamins that I read were supposed to be good for, your mood or whatever. And then I started exercising, which I hadn't done in years. So I found that to be a big stress reliever. And then I started kind of seeing these things around about being, like different workouts and different things like that. So I ended up doing a workout program that taught me not only about exercise, but also about mental health and helping yourself and, the self help and the personal development. So that is kind of where my journey led me into next, was that realm. So I really dove into that for like 5 years. And I ended up being like a coach. So I would, do these groups and all that kind of stuff, which I enjoyed for a while, but then just knew that it wasn't like for me long term. But again, I was really thankful for that because it did teach me about, these different books that you can read about growth and digging into things that happened to you in your past so that you could heal and like move forward. Because I have like traumas from my past that I had never dealt with until I was in my 30s. So I learned a lot about myself by going through that whole process. So, yeah, that's kind of how I came out of that and
Yeah.
learned about confidence and like just this world, this other world that I really was unaware of even existed.
Yeah, I think, it's something but like I went through a similar journey and process and everything, and I was kind of like, who am I and what do I need and what do I want? And so, yeah, I found like working out and really like digging into how to help myself and what to do and finding, and I actually did go to talk therapy and everything too. And so like that was an outlet for me to help process everything and really get through the thoughts that I was having and what was going on. And I think, when I started to spend more time on myself, I realized it was a ripple effect of being able to, communicate more effectively, have more confidence in myself, really get to a point that I felt like I could handle the overwhelm of everything and what was happening. And, looking back on it and just really kind of seeing what it had done for me to spend the time on personal development, to spend the time on really focusing on myself, I wouldn't change a thing. Like, I loved that I did that. And I think it's so important. And I think, we think like if we're spending time on ourselves, then we're taking away time from our babies. We're, neglecting our kids if we go and do a workout or something like that. And it's no, like if you go and do those things for yourself and you fill your cup, you're going to be able to be there fully for your kids when you're there. If you're just constantly, out of it, not registering what's going on, when you're finally, with your kids, if they're in daycare all day and you're at work all day and then you come to be with them, you're just spaced and you're just so overwhelmed with everything that you can't fully invest your time. And so, I think that is something that I had to learn. And once I started doing it more, I started realizing like, oh wow, like this is so
I feel so
helpful.
much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I felt guilty like for years, even before we had kids. Like, I would sign up for the gym, but never go because I just had this guilt. Like, why am I going to the gym? Like, there's cleaning that needs done, or like, my husband's here, and I really just, again, like you said, kind of neglected myself for a while because of guilt, So, but it makes a huge difference. And even now, like, I can tell if I'm not taking care of myself now, which happens, because you get busy and it's just like, when, but like if I do that and go a little while without those things, then I can tell a total difference in my mood, my irritability, like just, you know,
Yeah.
my mental health.
So when did the Made for Mama shop happen and what was that journey like?
Okay. So I did the coaching thing for a while. I was still working in corporate. I had my second baby, my second son, in 2016 in October. So a year passed with him. He was in daycare. I was still in corporate working in Pittsburgh. So I was commuting like an hour and a half both ways and not ever seeing my kids, basically. I was like, okay, something needs to change. So I ended up leaving my corporate job in May of 2018, actually almost 4 years ago now, and took a part-time job at Home Depot and did coaching. And I'm like, okay, like I can do this. You know, my husband needed to know that we were going to have some type of steady money coming in, because that was a huge jump and it was a huge blow to our household to do that. But I'm like, I can't keep my sanity. Like, I don't see my kids, and I'm a mom, and this is why I wanted to be a mom. Like, I want to be here with them. I want to take them to the park. I want to hang out with them. I want to see those little milestones. I want to see them interacting together, and getting to know each other. And I wasn't having any of that. So it was really starting to weigh on me. So I did part-time job at Home Depot as a cashier, and then coaching. And then after a while, my husband was like, okay, I told him, I'm like, I'm going to Home Depot. This isn't really like, is it even worth me driving there to do this, you know? So he was like, okay. So we decided, all right, leave Home Depot, focus on coaching, see what you can do with that for like the next year or whatever. Like, you know, we set a deadline. But I decided, I did coaching for a while and I was having fun with it, but I knew that it wasn't going to be long term. Like, it wasn't just something that, for me, it just wasn't fulfilling to like where I wanted it to be, you know? So in November of 2019, my whole house kept getting sick. And I'm thinking it might have been COVID, but who even knows? Because it was before COVID, but still people were like, you know, they say that it could have been, you know? So, but like we couldn't keep, I was cleaning the house. I was disinfecting everything, but it would be one person, then another person, then another person. And then it would just go again. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I can't get any work done right now. I can't do any coaching. Like, I'm here. I need to focus on my kids and get everyone back to health and like feeling good. So I kind of took like a little break for like a few weeks, meaning, you know, like I wasn't obsessed with it every day, all day. And at that time, I'm like, this feels really good. Like, I feel like so much less stress, kind of where I need to be right now. And I was, this is going to sound absolutely crazy, but this one night, this was like a year before that, I was rocking my youngest to sleep. Actually, it was during the daytime. It was for a nap. I was in his room and I was trying to get him to nap. And I kept thinking, I had been thinking this for years and years, like, what can I do to be home, be where I want to be, make money, like, please. And I would just, I'm not like a super religious person, but I would like pray about this, like, please just give me a sign, like, please tell me, what can I do, like, possibly, you know? And I was thinking that as I was rocking him to sleep, and I like still get goosebumps, but I heard this voice or this thought come across, or however you want to put it, but this thing just popped into my mind and it said, you should make mugs. And I was like, what? Like, this was a year before everyone was getting sick and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, that is the most ridiculous thing. Like, I don't know how to do that. I don't even have a Cricut. I have nothing to do. Like, this is just ridiculous. So I didn't think about it again until I went to Target like a year later when everyone was sick and saw these blank mugs in the dollar section, and they were pink, and some of them were like the camper, but they were the metal ones. So I'm like, I should get a couple of these and put them on Etsy and see if anyone would buy them. So that's what I did after everyone got a little better, like through the sickness. I was gifted a Cricut machine. I did like the Cricut and I put them on Etsy, like 5 of them, and people bought them. And I was like, really? You know, I was just like, okay. So then in January of 2020, I was like, okay, that's like all the validation I needed. So let's just do this mug thing, see what happens. So I kept on going with the Cricut. I would just get like blank mugs and do a couple at a time. Then COVID happened. So homeschooling started. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm homeschooling now. I also have a toddler and I'm trying to Cricut and weed these sayings to put on these mugs. And this is just getting to be impossible. So then I started working with a manufacturer to have a couple printed at a time. And then it just kind of like snowballed from there, I guess. But the whole thought behind it was that as I was going through all of that self-care and that mental health kind of journey that I was on, affirmations were a huge thing for me. So because I had told myself like so many negative things throughout the years, and just like how you talk to yourself, like I can be very critical of myself and all of this stuff. And so I was like, well, I never see any mugs with like affirmations on them. So how cool would it be to wake up as a mom in the morning and see a cute mug with a great saying on it to remind you like how great you are, or that you are strong, or that you're enough. So that's kind of like how the whole thought behind it started.
I love that. And I love how you said, like, unfortunately, your whole family was sick and everything, but
Yeah.
you took that moment to really just rest and focus on your family and what mattered most. And that's when you kind of heard this, hey, make mugs,
Yeah.
and I
I
think
know.
like
Yeah.
that's when it happens the most, like when you actually just take time to slow down, rest, and say, like, what's going on here, and just tell me something, like no matter, like you said, like whoever you're kind of hearing that from or what's going on, like I really feel like that intuition and that voice that is resonating with us is calling out for a reason. And I mean, now you make these beautiful products, and like you said, like a mom can really just like sip her coffee, if it stays hot or
Mhm.
not,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and really just kind of like enjoy that moment and read those words, because affirmations do go a long way, and the words that we read and hear and speak to ourselves are so impactful. I think, even if we need it like smacking us in the face, like reading it on that mug, I think, that's when we're able to like take that time and really just have a moment for ourselves and say those things to ourselves. And like I'm reading the words behind you too, and like choose joy and grateful, and I think it's just kind of like those sorts of things we don't realize are so impactful, but they make such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. They really do.
Do you have like a favorite affirmation or something that you tend to, I guess,
Go back to.
enjoy? Yeah, like having the most around.
My affirmation that I always just go back to is just that you are enough. Like I fall into this and I know what it's from. It's from my past, always feeling like I wasn't enough, being compared to other people and things like that. So yeah, I always go back to you are enough just to remind myself like you're enough. You can do this. You're enough how you are. You don't need to change. You don't need to, be someone else. So that's kind of the one that I always go back to myself.
I love that. What can you say to somebody that maybe is starting out on their own journey of selling things on Etsy, or like thinking like, how can I, be doing more of something that I love and love creating?
I would say kind of pick one thing and just go with it. I wouldn't try to start out with a bunch of different things all at once. Kind of go with one thing and become known for that thing and then try expanding if you want to at that time. Yeah, that's kind of what I would do. Just simplify it, figure out what you want to do, find out who you want to sell it to, and then like tell your story and tell what it's about and tell the story behind each product, and how it makes you feel and how you want it to make other people feel. It's hard. There's so much to it, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like sometimes, I guess when we start out in things and we're not, either getting, like you said, you put a couple of them on Etsy and like they sold, and then you were like, okay, like I'll keep going with this. And I think like for some people that maybe aren't having that success, it is hard. And like you said, like hearing like you're enough like is helpful, but like when you're not seeing, your product sell or your things panning out, you kind of like second guess yourself. Were there any moments that you felt like maybe this isn't the right thing, or like, who am
Ugh,
I to do this?
I felt that yesterday. I'm like, am I doing like, should I even be doing this? I mean, it like comes up because there's so many decisions, there's so many things to do. And also, I think just when you're starting to kind of stick it out, and if it's not going how you want it to go, try something else. Like try switching the style or the colors, or, like it took me a long time to figure out, it took me 8-9 months to figure out, like these speckled mugs are the ones that people want. Like this is what people want. And even like sometimes I'll try and change it to something else, and it's like they don't sell. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you like, just stick with what people want and what they're buying. So yeah, just try to stick it out, because it's hard at first with the self-doubt, and just especially like if things aren't selling, you're like, you do question it a lot. And like I said, I questioned it yesterday, like on my way home, or like I was in the car and I'm like, gosh, is this what I'm supposed to be doing right now?
And I love that you're
But
real and honest with that, because I think sometimes, like we don't see that side of things, and we see like these
mhm,
people and we're like, oh my gosh, well, they're selling things or they're super
yeah,
successful and like they have it all together. And like you said, like that's like something, I struggled with, and you have like expressed in motherhood, like, oh, look at that mom. She has it all together. Like who, like I must be, losing it, or something's wrong with me. And I think like the more we're kind of like open about all of these things and saying like, I don't have it all together all the time, and I have these doubts, and this is happening with me too. I think it makes it that much more relatable and a journey that we can all follow, and know like, we're going to have those tough days. We're going to have those times, and we're all here. We're all here.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
But is there anything, looking back on your motherhood journey that you wish you would have known sooner or earlier? Or is there any kind of, things that you, try to tell new moms now that might be helpful for them to know?
I don't know. I feel like it's just such a learning process. I almost feel like you don't really know until you're in it and going through it. Like you really don't know unless you're a mom and have kids, you know? And I just tell people like reach out for help when you need it. Even if it's just a friend, like even if you just need to talk to a friend, and just know that you're not alone in it. Like you're not alone no matter what you're going through. Somebody else has gone through it, has gotten through it, you know? So just, and that's kind of what I go back to a lot with my brand and my business is just like I want people to know when they're sipping from their mug, like I want them to know the saying and I want it to bring them a smile, but like I also want them to remember that they're not alone in motherhood. Like we're all together, we're in this together, and like we're better together. So if we can share what's happening or reach out or share a story or whatever, we have this great community. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Hmm.
I love it. Well, it was so nice chatting with you and hearing a little bit about your story and where you're at now. But where can we find you? Where can we get a mug? Like, tell us all the details.
Yeah, so we're on Instagram and Facebook at Made for Mama Shop. It's MAMA. And then our website is madeformamashop.com. I did create a code for your listeners or your audience if they wanted. They can get 15% off their first order with the discount code Entering Motherhood, all caps. So yeah, I would love to connect I'm on Instagram like all the time. I'm like trying to ease my way into TikTok, but I'm just like, it's so much and I don't know, I just can't get into it for some reason.
Like you said,
So,
stick with that one thing and just keep going
yeah.
with that.
Yeah. We are on TikTok, but I'm like mostly on Instagram. So you can like shoot me a message or, say hi, and I would absolutely love that because I love connecting with our audience. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you. This was so fun. I loved it.
Awesome. Well, this wraps up yet another episode of Entering Motherhood. I hope that you have found this episode helpful, and if you liked it, please share it with others who might also benefit from this information. If there's anything that you'd like to know more about, or maybe you know someone who'd like to be on the show, please visit my website, enteringmotherhood.com. I'm so thrilled to be going on this journey with you and getting the amazing opportunity to help moms during this postpartum experience. You can also now find us on Instagram and Facebook at Entering Motherhood.